Dude, I'm building a ship. What does it look like I'm doing?
New England colonists built ships for a living. These ships were used for trade and shipping goods.
I got it! I got my first whale!
Whaling was another part of making a living in the colonies.
I got one!
Colonists went fishing for food and money.
There was relatively good climate in the middle colonies. Having this and good soil helped farming greatly. They could produce more crops, causing the farmers to be able to sell their extras for money. Colonists in the middle colonies used ships and rivers to transport goods.
Excuse me. No.
The trip across the ocean was called the Middle Passage. This name came from the fact that it was often the second or middle leg of the three-part route known as the triangular trade. The routes that came from the colonies to England traded rice, tobacco, indigo, furs, and manufactured goods. The routes from England to Africa traded cloth and manufactured goods. The routes from Africa and England traded sugar, molasses, fruit, slaves, gold, and pepper. The rapid spread of infectious disease to a large number of people in a given population within a short period of time, usually 2 weeks or less, is what's called epidemics. Malaria, mostly caused by an infected mosquito, is treatable by the medical professionals. Some symptoms are chills, fever, sweating, pain in muscles, fast heart rate, vomiting, and dizziness.
Yellow fever is also caused by a mosquito. There is no known treatment. It is preventable by vaccine. Some symptoms include fever, headache, nausea, or vomiting. Diphtheria is the infection of the nose and throat. It is preventable by vaccine. Some symptoms include noisy breathing, shortness of breath, chills or fatigue, fever, soreness, difficulty swallowing, hoarseness, or rashes.
The term Great Awakening can refer to several periods of religious revival in American religious history. Historians and theologians identify 3 or 4 waves of increased religious enthusiasm occurring between the early 18th century and the late 19th century.
The Enlightenment. The Age of Enlightenment is an era from the 1620s to the 1780s in which cultural and intellectual forces in Western Europe emphasized reason, analysis, and individualism rather than traditional lines of authority. Zenger printed the New York Weekly Journal. The first generation of American editors discovered readers loved it when they criticized the local governor. Freedom of the press is the freedom of communication and expression through mediums including various electronic media and published materials.
And this is the Abby Talk Show.
Okay, Erica, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions about the life in the colonies. How did they get the tradition of protected rights?
The colonists believed that government must respect civil liberties or rights. It first appeared in the Magna Carta.
What is the Magna Carta and where did they come from?
The Magna Carta is a charter decree by King John of England, and the Magna Carta came from England at Runnymede near Windsor.
What is the English Bill of Rights and what is the history of its creation?
The English Bill of Rights is an act by the Parliament of England passed on December 16, 1689. The Bill of Rights creates separation of power, limits the power of the king and queen, enhances the democratic election, and bolsters freedom of speech.
And we'll get you after this break. Sponsored by Coca-Cola! And we're back. What are the different kinds of colonies and how are they run?
Proprietary, royal, and charter. Royals are ruled by England. Proprietary is colonies that were given to someone by the king to pay off debt. And charter were owned by the companies such as the Virginia Trading Company.
What is mercantilism and how does it work to enrich the home country? England in this case.
Mercantilism is a way for a country to make money by selling to more countries
You're
than it
welcome.
buys. It benefits England because they can buy from the colonies who supplies too much.
Why did England pass the series of laws known as the Navigation Acts?
England passed the Navigation Act to ensure that the colonies could trade with them, so they could charge less for more in government money.
How did the colonists feel about the Navigation Acts and what did they do to avoid them?
Colonists first accepted the acts, but then as their population grew, they wished to manufacture their own goods and trade to other places. They began to smuggle goods to other places.
Thank you for coming, Erica. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Did you notice the Coke?
Good morning, Mr. Plaza's second period class. This is the Colonial News Broadcasting. Off to you, Hannah.
On September 13th, 1759, during the 7 Years' War, a worldwide conflict known in the United States as the French and Indian War, the British under General James Wolfe achieved a dramatic victory when they scaled the cliffs over the city of Quebec, defeating the French forces under Louis Joseph de Montcalm on the plains of Abraham. Wolfe was fatally wounded during the battle, but his victory ensured British supremacy in Canada, and today, by 1763, all of France's allies in Europe had either made a separate peace with Russia or had been defeated.
The Iroquois Confederacy is a cultural and political union of several Native American tribes residing in the present-day state of New York. They lived between the Hudson River and the St. Lawrence and Lake Erie. The tribe spoke the Iroquoian language, which is the family of North American and Indian languages spoken by the Iroquois peoples. The British are currently trying to build an alliance with the people to further the British military.
The Ben Franklin's Albany Plan of Union. The Albany Plan of Union is a proposal to create a unified government for the 13 colonies, suggested by Benjamin Franklin, who is of currently age of 45, and a delegate from Pennsylvania at the Albany Congress today, July 10, 1754, in Albany, New York.
The Treaty of Paris of 1763 has successfully ended the French and Indian War between Great Britain and France, as well as their respective allies. In terms of the treaty, France gave up all its territories in mainland North America, effectively ending any foreign military threat to the British colonies. The Treaty of Paris ultimately encouraged dissension between Anglo-American colonists and the British government because their interests in North America no longer coincided. The Treaty of Paris ultimately set the colonists on the path towards seeking independence, even as it seemed to make the British Empire stronger than ever.